Hi. I know what you're thinking. Where's the cheesy music? Well, look, the only reason I had that cheesy music was because my microphone was so awful. All that scratchy sound you were hearing, I had to cover it up with something. But today I've got a better microphone, so I don't need the music. I'm sorry I didn't get this message out to you earlier today, as was my intention. Everything just takes twice as long, 3 times as long in this remote format, and so I'm just always way behind, it feels like. I don't know. I really shouldn't complain. I've got this really nice office. I mean, it's way nicer than most professors have. Would you like to see it? Here, I'll show it to you. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, every once in a while a tour group comes through, and that's annoying. But the technology in here is just incredible. Huh. Well, this is interesting. I haven't noticed this before. There's this red button here. I wonder what would happen if I pressed it. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Well, this seems like a good time to give you my movie recommendation for the week. You're at home, you got time on your hands. I thought, in addition to sending out weekly music videos, which I hope you saw this morning, the Paul McCartney car karaoke video, which is amazing, I think I'll share with you on a weekly basis recommendations for 60s movies that I like, and steer you away from ones that aren't worth seeing. For example, I mean, the first 60s movie most people think of is Easy Rider, right? And I'm just saying, don't even bother. It's kind of boring, actually. But here's one that I highly recommend. It's called Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Group Captain Mandrake speaking.
Listen to me carefully. The base is being put on condition red.
Jolly good idea. Keep the men on their toes.
Group Captain, I'm afraid this is not an exercise.
Hell.
Appears that the order called for the planes to attack their targets inside Russia.
This man is obviously a psychotic.
The Doomsday Machine.
What is that?
A device which will destroy all life on Earth.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room. Dr. Strangelove. How is it possible for them to have built such a thing?
It is not only possible, it is essential.
Dimitri, there's no point in you getting hysterical at a moment like this.
I wish we had one of them doomsday machines, Tracy.
Well, the American Film Institute rates Dr. Strangelove as the third funniest American film of all time, and I would certainly put it in my top 3 as well. In order to save money on actors, the studio had Stanley Kubrick give Peter Sellers 3 of the roles in the film, and he does just an amazing job as President of the United States, as Secretary of the Defense, I think, and Lieutenant Mandrake of the British, associated with the British Army. Dr. Strangelove, highly recommended for its black satire of fears in the 1960s about nuclear conflicts breaking out between the United States and the Soviet Union. Well, I've got messages this week for both sets of students in the class, those doing the coursework and those who are doing the oral history project. Let's start with the coursework group. So we made a start last week in our readings and posting of point paragraphs and questions, and the results were mixed. Looks like we were off to a slow and unsteady start. Nobody did all of the reading and posted assignments, but maybe that's to be expected in the first week of our remote learning. And I'm remembering now our acronym, CIRCLE, courage, realism, compassion, and love for learning. So hopefully we can do better this second week, which has a little less of a reading load, actually. And I want to say this about accumulating points toward your grade for the rest of the course. You need to get 40 points in coursework in order to get the grade of an A in the course. You already had some points accumulated in the first half of the course. Let's say you had 10 or 12 points already accumulated. To get to 40, you just need 30 or 28 more. How many points are available to earn between week 8 and the end of the course? 46. So quite a bit more than are actually called for to get an A. What that means is you don't have to do every point paragraph in order to end up in a good place in the final week of the course. I'll be telling you how many points you have every time I grade one of your point paragraphs. I'll include a total of how many points you have at that point, and so you can gauge your progress that way. And if you want to skip an occasional point paragraph, you can do it. And what that means is maybe you just don't write any for last week if you're behind. Don't try to get caught up. Let's just put a pin in it and start over with this week's topic, which is the Vietnam War. And I want to put this question on the table for you. You'll see it in the question-answer Moodle forum. The sort of big question that scholars wrestle with, and that I think it's good for us to think about, is why did Lyndon Johnson escalate? As a congressman in the 1950s, he several times argued against committing U.S. forces to a war in Southeast Asia. He was instrumental in keeping American forces out of that region when he was a congressman. After he became president, following the assassination of John F. Kennedy, he got on the phone with his most trusted advisors and asked for their opinions about what to do in Vietnam. And recently, those phone conversations were declassified, and so we now know that Johnson went into this war with his eyes open. The phone calls show that he did not want to commit U.S. troops to Vietnam. The phone calls show that he was aware that the U.S. probably could not achieve a victory over the communists. The phone calls show a man who was uncertain, vacillating, unsure of himself, and desperate to not have to fight a war halfway around the world when the war he really wanted to fight was a war on poverty at home. So, given that all of that was true about Johnson, why then did he escalate American troops to the 500,000 level in 1965 and following? It's a mystery, and let's see if you can unravel it using this week's sources. All right, turning now to our oral history project people. I love the meme that Maria sent out of her doing her project interviews. And let's have more memes. Send me your pictures of you as you do your interviews in the setting that you're using to do them, or send me pictures of you reading books. In the weirder the setting, the better. Let's share, what it looks like where we are. Those are always interesting to look at. This week, for those of you doing oral history projects, the objective this week is for me to have a look at your Step It Up assignment number 2 and give you feedback on finding good secondary sources. Secondary sources are absolutely critical for writing up a good research essay on your subjects. And I'm going to help you pick out the very best secondary sources available so that you can contextualize your topics and your interviewees. Sometimes these are books, sometimes these are journal articles in places like the Journal of American History. All of you are going to be spending some time in a database called America, History, and Life, which you find on the library page under the History tab in the Research section of the library page. Probably my note to you this week when I get back to you about Step It Up Research Assignment number 2 will include a reference to America, history and life, so be on the lookout for that. That's all I've got for you now. Stay safe. Keep washing those hands. Keep 6 feet apart from strangers. And let's let that love of learning take over. I want to see everybody like little Abraham Lincoln sitting by the fire reading his book. Bye now.